What has changed in your life or your family's life or both since he passed away in February?
Well, it's been just about 6 months or 8 months, and he still comes up in every conversation I have with my dad, conversations with my brother, sharing memories, things that we were supposed to do with them, more memories that we're supposed to make that we don't have that chance now. It just the feeling bad for his kids, his grandkids, everything that they're missing out on too. Yet still thankful for the time that we had with him, that they had with him. But, he's gone. So there's no more to be made.
I've got some secrets that I gotta keep. Yeah, there's emotions swirling underneath. It doesn't seem daylight or feel the same. I've got a question burning through my mind. The only one that leaves me terrified. I've asked myself about 1,000,000 times, but I'll never know. Would you love me if you knew what I've done?
Tell me who you are and how you're related to Michael Hanson.
I am Tim Hanson, and I am his youngest son.
Arliss Hanson, might as well be the oldest.
Tell me about your dad. Like, what was it like growing up with Michael Hanson as a father? Arliss, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, he was, you kind of get the blinders on or the jaded idea of your dad. You never see anything really. He was a damn good man. I mean, he picture perfect. I mean, he was really about morals and fair and, doing right. And we hunted and went out four-wheeling, hiking. Just basically everything you hear about in Montana, we did it.
It was pretty good. We did a lot of traveling, mainly around Montana. We took care of a lot of animals, doing little odd jobs because, my dad was a handyman, and so, he'd have us help with different construction and, stuff like that. But it was good. I really look back on it fondly, I would say. He was a good man.
How far apart are y'all in age?
Oof. Well, I'm 27. How old are you?
Well, let's see, I'm 40, dang near 41, so 13, 14.
Yeah.
I'll say 14.
Yeah.
All right, so y'all didn't really grow up together.
No, different moms.
Okay, gotcha.
No.
Gotcha. And what was that like, having the different moms with the same dad?
About what you'd expect, the usual,
No.
Yeah.
Good and bad, and mainly good.
I spent summers with my dad, and whenever he was around, it was pretty great.
Nice.
So it wasn't always just work with my dad. We spent a lot of time, swimming and, like he said, hiking and, doing all kinds of fun stuff, and having my big brother around made it even better.
Heck yeah.
So
A lot of what Dad taught us is how we spent our time, throwing knives and going swimming and,
Yeah.
just finding snakes to catch and keep as pets. And we had pet rattlesnakes.
Rattlesnakes.
Yeah, I mean,
Catch
all that-
rattlesnakes?
yeah.
Holy crap.
he had a way with animals, and and that kind of ties into, he was very good at reading them and how to take care of them, and yeah, it was all kind of stemmed from that.
Arliss is referring to the reason Mike was even on the property where he was killed, the property of Pam Polajewski. Pam and Mike were an item a few years prior, and while the romantic side of their relationship may have ended, their friendship did not. Mike would still help Pam when she needed it, especially in regards to her no-kill animal shelter that she had on her property prior to 2020. Pam is currently in prison awaiting sentencing for a crime unrelated to Mike's death. We will have an entire episode dedicated to the history behind the incident on February 23rd. So for now, just know that Mike was the only resident of Pam's Wexford Lane property, caring for the land and her possessions, while Pam lived in an apartment in town.
By Montana code and law, you can verbally say you can watch and caretake my land, and now you are that occupier of that land. You are that caretaker. So whatever happens there is your business, because that is your property. That's something within your rights to do.
What's your name and how are you related to Mike Hanson?
Yeah, my name is Darcy Barker, and I am Mike Hanson's niece. I spent quite a bit of time with them in 2016, I think it was, when my grandma passed away. He was her main caretaker while she was in hospice, and so he did everything for her. He cooked, he cleaned, he took the dogs out, he did the grocery shopping, he was changing her, he was, feeding her, and feeding her with, and so it was just he and I that were there the last 2 days that my grandma was alive. And then Arliss and Timmy came down. I think it was the day that she passed away, and helped us clean out the house and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it sounds like he's a good caretaker. He was taking care of Pam's property, and
Yeah,
it seemed like he had a pretty good heart as far as like giving of himself.
absolutely. He would literally do anything that you needed. I mean, I don't know, I think I was probably 19 years old or whatever, and I had this truck and I bought this CD player for it, back in the
Yes.
in the 90s or whatever. And oh my gosh. And yeah, he installed the radio for me and was so happy to do it, change my oil and whatever I needed. And he was like that with all of his friends and family. He was very much a giver, a caretaker, loyal.
My name is Alan Hanson, and I'm his brother. He's a year older than I am. He protected me and took care of me when we were little. He talked for me and everything. I was kind of the quiet guy. But, as years went by, I got to be the outgoing one. In the last few years, he was the best grandpa he could possibly be. He was babysitting Timmy's kids and was just doting grandparent. I would call him every 2 weeks to a month, and we'd sit and talk on the phone. And most of the time, one or both of those kids was in his lap trying to get his attention. And hey, Papa, this and that. And yeah, they were tight.
You can consider much of this episode as a character testimony. The only person involved in the incident who is unable to speak for himself is Mike Hanson. He can't defend his actions. He can't tell us what happened from his perspective. In his stead, we've talked to family so that they can speak to who he was. During your whole investigation, when did you meet Tim and Arliss?
I didn't meet them until that was our second meeting. So the time you met them was our second. We had met them a time before, maybe a month before that, prior to that, and so we met them then, and they came in. So that's why they were there the second time, because we could actually contact them again and have them come into the meeting. So it was about a month or so before we had met that day.
Okay. And were they happy about y'all investigating it, or were they reserved? Or?
Oh yeah, yep. At first, I could say they were reserved. I mean, who wouldn't be? Who am I? Who am I? Who are you? Who was anybody that's looking into this? We're just regular civilians looking into this, you know. So they were a little bit reserved, and then after we had other work that was generated through this whole time. So we had gone through some of the findings from the inquiry. So we had gone through all of that. So I had written up some pretty good stuff, because like Tony was going to put out a news release on the CCLP, the Cascade Libertarian Party pages and stuff, that we were still looking into this. So I presented them with that evidence that we had and gone through, and their faces just dropped. And then I knew we were going to be good, and I think that speculation of each other was gone, I think.
Yeah, where do you remember the trailer being at?
The trailer?
Yeah,
Oh, it
Jacob.
was right here where the square of the rocks are. You're standing practically in the middle of it.
Oh, wow. So yeah, there's no way he would have not seen him if the camper was right there. Was your dad staying in the camper or in the...
He was up top.
Up top?
Mm-hmm.
Do you come out here often?
Yeah.
Yeah? What is it like being here since the
Well,
incident?
you can see that it's freshly cleaned. It's been pretty stagnant and depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, I should have had it done a while ago, but you know, it's kind of it's rough.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. First off, Arliss, where were you when you got the phone call? How'd you find out about it? That kind of thing.
Well, I was working on my truck, and somebody I'd known had called me up and said that they heard that he had just gotten shot. And, you know, I had texts from him, you know, saying, well, fix your truck, come on home, you know, just get here. And I didn't realize it sounded almost needy at the time, you know, or not needy, but, you know, like, can you hurry up a little bit? Mm-hmm. And I was there. I didn't get the truck fixed. I got dropped off by some people, and I run up, and there's 2 ambulances sitting at the beginning of the last hill that goes over our hill, and they were both sitting there, and I was asking, you know, why aren't they at least, you know, up there doing something or getting them out of there, and they wouldn't let me by. So eventually I just ran around up the hill and over, and I went and saw what I could saw, and was met with 3 or 4 officers almost halfway, and they told me after, well, I pretty much got that he was gone, so I just turned around and got out of there, and that was just so quick. I just gone.
I was at a wrestling meet for my kids, and Pam called me and told me that the police had killed my dad. And so we packed the kids up and headed straight to Great Falls. I mean, there wasn't really anything I could do about it, obviously, but it's just such a shock. But I was at a wrestling meet with my kids.
Arliss called me.
Gotcha.
I had talked to him. It was 2 days after his birthday, or 3 days after his birthday. I had called him on his birthday and talked to him, and everything was fine. And then to hear from Arliss, he said, you know, the cop shot my dad.
And my dad called me and said, you know, hey, are you sitting down? And I was like, yeah, why? You know, and he was like, they killed him, you know. And I was like, what? You know, this can't be happening. And unfortunately, it was true, you know.
Yeah.
He's gone. I wasn't prepared for that at all.
The Cascade County Sheriff's Office confirms a deputy was shot this evening during an early evening incident west of Great Falls. MTN's Owen Skornick-Hayes has been following this story and has more from the scene.
Well, at around 5:30 p.m., we were called out here to Wexford Lane, the site of an apparent shooting. Now, we can confirm that at least one deputy has been shot. According to Cascade County Sheriff Jesse Slaughter, the injured deputy, who has not been named, is in stable condition and receiving medical attention at this time. We arrived at the scene several miles west of Great Falls at roughly 5:30 p.m. Officers from the Montana Highway Patrol and the county sheriff's office had staged police vehicles along a half-mile stretch of Wexford Lane just south of McIver Road, keeping traffic from traveling down the road towards the scene of the incident. An ambulance was also on hand. At this time, the details surrounding the cause of the shooting have not been released. No suspects have been arrested, and there are no further injuries to report. And as always, MTN will keep you updated as we learn more information from Wexford Lane. I'm Owen Skornick-Hayes.
Tim, what's been happening since that day? Like how have you been treated by the police department or the sheriff's office? Yeah, that's the first question.
Well, trying to get the story from them, that was a nightmare. They really didn't want to say a whole lot, really weren't very understanding of my situation as far as, you know, going through the loss of my dad. And there was one of the detectives, I don't remember his name, but he was kind of getting upset at me because he was trying to ask me questions, but I wasn't answering his questions. I was asking him questions because I didn't know, you know, what was what at that point in time. And he told me that I was delusional, trying to feed into some conspiracy that the police murdered my dad, or like said that I was being unprofessional. And I was like, you know, I don't have to be professional, you do. And just overall, it hasn't been great, to be honest. It's been very frustrating.
Right. Arliss, have you received basically the same treatment?
Well, at this point, I know enough to not even try and ask them for anything.
Ain't that the truth?
You know, I find out what I can here and there and piece it together, and still working on stuff. So, but
you can say what'd you say, babe?
So there was a point in time on your phone call with him that he told you that you were being unrealistic if you believe that your rights are going to be followed all the time, because that's not what happens in today's world, or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
And then started calling you delusional after that.
The detective you were talking to?
Yeah, it's been pretty frustrating.
Just dwell on that for a moment. Your father has just been killed. You have no idea what happened, and you're looking for information and maybe a little understanding. Instead, you get interrogated and informed that your rights are subject to the whim of law enforcement. One of the frustrating and overwhelming characteristics of today's world is that we are constantly bombarded with information. We're bombarded with good news, funny videos, ridiculous memes, but far more often than any of that, we're presented with something negative. Over a long period of time, this can be desensitizing, leaving us apathetic, calloused, and even spiteful or cruel. We tend to lose all nuance and gray area as a side effect of this. We make snap judgments and side with our teams rather than analyzing the particular situation. All of this is completely understandable. We don't have the time to get invested in every single incident that occurs in our county, let alone around the world. One of the most frequent comments that we received on the first episode of this show was, "He should have just done what the officer said." At face value, this seems reasonable. After all, Detective Try is in a position of authority in the county government. It would make sense why it would be a good idea to do what he says. To make the counter-argument, here's attorney James Denton.
In walks this professor. He's 6'6", looks like Darth Vader, has a Darth Vader cutout in his office, okay? Gray-haired, black, a magistrate judge with books. And he walks out of the front of the class, slams them down, and we're all terrified, quiet. You know, it's stadium-style seating with 80 kids. And he gets a $100 bill, and he posts $100, takes it to the board. And he says, all of you have the right to that $100 bill. And we're all like, what is he talking about? Like, what is happening? And then he just starts like, what are the facts of the case? Oh, what case? What do you mean, what case? You're not supposed to be here? I thought you were smart. What are the facts? It just tears the room up. And we're all just silently praying that he doesn't come to us, right? That's what the first day of law school is. And you're just sitting there going, what is happening? I feel like I'm in a firing squad. Okay, at the end of the class, he walks back over to the board, and he pulls that $100 bill off the board, and he said, you have lost the right to this $100 bill. At any point during class, you could have walked down here and gotten this $100 bill. You had the right to it. You did not assert your right, so you have lost it. The only rights we have are the rights that we assert. And if you stop asserting them, you lose them, and you don't get them back. And he closed his books, and he left. I could not tell you what the rest of that 2-hour class was about. I will forever be grateful for that lesson. The only rights we have are the rights that we assert. You know, it used to be illegal for police to have dogs smell your car, smell your luggage. But not enough people asserted their right to privacy, including their private smells, that the courts have ruled collectively as a society we have waived that right. And so we no longer have it. They used to have to get a warrant to put a GPS tracking device in your car. But since we're all on Google and Google can track your car, we've all collectively waived that right. They used to have to get a warrant to put a camera across the street and watch your house and surveil you. But since Google Earth, we've waived that right. They don't need a warrant to do that anymore. You see how bad this gets? Okay? Normally, I open carry a handgun. I don't conceal because I hope to never have to shoot anybody. I open carry to show I have the right to a firearm, and so do you, and we should all get used to seeing them. Not on just cops, okay? That's why I'm wearing it. I mean, if somebody came up and tried to rob me, I'd be like, here's my wallet. It's not worth killing you, or, you know what I mean? Like, I hope I would never have to use it. The point is, I get to. The point is, millions of people died so that I get to, okay?
Mike Hanson was asserting his rights. He had the right to demand to see the warrant. He had the right to walk away from Detective Try. And once Try jumped the fence, he had the right to defend himself and his property from an illegal trespasser. Here is Bart Crabtree of the Montana Citizens Council on Judicial Accountability, expanding on the rights Mike had and the requirements of law enforcement.
Well, one thing, you know, you asked me what stands out in that event. The one thing that really stood out to me is that the issue of issuing the warrant, okay? State law is very clear on this, and Kevin and I have researched this in the statutes. State law is very clear is that when an officer goes to a place like that with a search warrant, any kind of a warrant, the statute, and I forget what the statute number is. I mean, Kevin can just reel them off. He's got to memorize. It's very clear that the officer has to have a copy of the warrant with him or a photocopy of it. It doesn't say anything that he can have a digital copy on his camera and show it to people. Okay. Josh Rackey was asked about this in an email. So was Jess Slaughter. He was asked about this during the coroner's inquest. And they both are saying, well, they don't actually have to have a copy of the warrant. Yes, you do. okay? Unless they can provide us a statute or evidence. I'm not talking about rules, okay? Rules are not statutes. Sometimes they use rules as an excuse. You know, like our judiciary. Well, the rule of civil procedure or the rule of the sheriff's office, or that's not a statute, okay? Unless they can produce a statute that says what they are saying is true during that testimony at the coroner's inquest, that's perjury. What Josh Rackey responded to one of the emails was not truthful. He said, oh, we really don't need to. It happens quite often. We can clear a property before the search warrant gets there to preserve evidence. No, you can't. So we're waiting on a response from these people, you know, show us. And we haven't gotten it yet.
The guy didn't, you know, state himself as a police officer. My dad's only request was to see the warrant. Never got to see it. He said, what do you guys need a warrant for? And he said, oh, you'll see when you read it or whatever. Well, still to this day, my dad don't know what he died for. You know, he has no idea what the warrant was for. He wasn't given the opportunity to really to even get an understanding of the situation. He basically was just, hey, you know, show me your warrant. Get off the property, not until I see a warrant. I mean, and, you know, as far as who drew first or who shot first, I don't know. I do know that my dad didn't make any unreasonable requests. From knowing him personally, I know that my dad wasn't aggressive, and he wasn't trying to escalate the situation.
He just wasn't one to go out and start trouble. It was not in his nature to go out looking for trouble.
So Try testified that your dad approached him. He saw him sitting in the car and started coming out towards the gate to talk to him. Would that be something that your dad would do, or would he just go about his business?
Well, I mean, if you're sitting by the front gate and there's not another house around for, you know, what's going on, you know. Yeah.
From what I understood is for a while he thought that was me down there getting tools for my truck because that's what I was doing, working on the truck. He thought it was somebody giving me a ride over or something sitting there, and then he realized, and then that's when he went down to, you know, hey, what, you know, can we help you? What's going on here? Who are you? And that's, to me, how he would have went down there.
Yep.
To an undressed cop or whatever, you know, just in civilian clothes, unmarked.
He drives right up onto the gate and wonders why Mike came out and to say who's on the property. He's in an unmarked vehicle. He should have never been there that day. He didn't follow any protocols whatsoever in his post certifications, probably all the protocols that are involved. Okay, you never go into a search warrant or go try to do this without backup. I mean, that's just rule number one. So he should have never been there in the first place. He had 10 days to serve this warrant. There was no urgency, and he gave up his element of surprise.
So why was the priority to be there so shortly after hearing about it, so shortly after the warrant, despite the limitations with staffing on that day?
As a reminder of what we're asserting, here's the graphic from last week's episode. In addition to these 10 violations, we would like to reiterate that Detective Try had 10 whole days to serve the warrant, instead serving it by himself within an hour. We believe this was extremely poor judgment on his part. Poor judgment that continues to present itself the more we've looked into this case. If Mike's watching right now and seeing everything that's going on around his death, what do you think his reaction would be to this, and what would you like to say to him?
I think his reaction would probably be, he'd be thankful, I think. for all of this. You know, he was quiet, didn't like the attention on him, but I think he'd be okay with it, knowing that he could be helping other people. And man, there's so much I'd like to say to him. I love him and I miss him. And I'll see him again someday. And that gives me peace. So.
He was really about morals and fair and, you know, doing right. And I mean, he was always making, you know, bows and arrows with me, or taking me hiking, teaching me how to do fire. And that was all of us when we were all together. You know, he was very hands-on, and, you know, in there he was just too good for what he got. You know, that was just the end of his life should have been so much better than it was.
Before the final scene of the episode, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and review the show on your preferred platform. And if you have any information regarding this case, please reach out to us at cascade@peacefulsea.network. The next episode will air in 2 to 3 weeks, so join us as we delve into the lies, deceptions, and perjury of the Sheriff's Department during the official government inquest into the shooting.
Would you stand right where he was? He was right there, according to the app. I'm gonna try to get 8 yards, and then Mike was found right about here. This is where Mike was. Right here. Right about here, according to the quack, 25 yards, which are 25 feet, which is 8 yards. Mike is here. Even if Mike walked forward and said, no, go get your warrant, he turns to walk away. He says, get back here. He turns a little bit this way, okay? We know that the first round went into the neck, and the other one went through the left chest and out the back on the right-hand side. So he's facing away from Try. He's not squared up to Try, because he'd have a full frontal shot. This shot, the first shot, this one might be where, and I'm speculating, but from what I saw from the thing, he was shot right here before he even got to initiate his turn. Because the entrant wound is burnt and the bullet doesn't open up. Can I see that again? Grab that for me, would you? The bullet doesn't open up until we have there. That's the entrance wound, in my opinion. This is the expansion of the hollow point. All ballistics say and gels say that it goes in small. As soon as it's able to open up, it opens up, or else we would have had this part here reversed. We have the wound in an angle and coming out on his right-hand side. He was facing from this right here, he was facing away when he was shot.
Cascade Effect is brought to you by Peaceful Sea Network. Theme song by Jay Denton and Hannah Parrott. Special thanks to Kevin Leatherbarrow, Tony Rosales, Tim Hanson, Arliss Hanson, Bart Crabtree, the Cascade County Libertarian Party, and the Montana Citizens Council on Judicial Accountability. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.